Hi and welcome back to my channel. It's Tina and I'm coming to you with an empty TBR cart, and I am surrounded by books, which is, let's be honest, how I like it, but I am surrounded by my physical TBR because what we're doing today is picking my next read based solely on their first sentence. Now, these are books that are on my physical TBR. So of course, I know a little bit about them. I picked them up for one reason or another, but these are books where I have not really dug in and read their synopsis. I'm a little nervous. I'm not sure if this experiment is going to work out for me, but I have to do it today because I need to pick up my next read. I am in between books right now, and you know I don't like to be in between books for too long. These books I've not shared in a new release Tuesday video. I may have seen them online. They might have been sent to me. Maybe I checked them out from the library, but by and large, I don't know a ton about them. And that's by design. I want to see if I can manufacture a great reading experience just based on the first sentence. And why is the first sentence so important? I personally really like a first sentence that's solid. It helps set up the book for me. I don't love a quote to open the book. I read them, but I'm like, whatever. I get no meaning or joy from those. But in a good first sentence, I wanted to do three things. First, mystery. Get me curious. Get me saying, okay, what happens here? Or I need to know more about this. Number two is if it's bold or unusual. Like if it's something that is really going to make me say, I'm sorry, what? Come again? Shock me. A really good example of this is Andy Weir's The Martian. And I think the opening sentence is, I'm fucked or something like that. Really great, A+ work there. And then the last one is a strong sense of voice or sense of character. And the example that I used, I feel like you got three. You got all of those three criteria because I'm curious, why is the character screwed? Number two, it's unusual. You don't expect a character to say that upon first meeting. No, hi, hello, how are you? Just gets right into it. And then number three, you really get the sense of that character's voice. You come to understand who the character is. So that is what I'm looking for today. I don't know how many books I have in front of me. This might be a really long introduction, but what I'm going to do is rank them on my cart. On the bottom level here, these are books that are still going to be on my TBR, but I'm not going to be reading them for this video. Their opening sentence does nothing for me. Middle of the road, decent, but let's be honest, I'm probably not going to read it for this video. And then top tier, these are the top of the top. And then I was thinking we should go through the top, maybe once we get to like 5 or 6 up top, then I can narrow it down. But let's get into it. I got a lot of work to do. First is Tartufo by Kira Jane Buxton. I know a little bit about this. I know it's set in Italy. And I know this character or this author wrote Hollow Kingdom, which I loved. But they give you a cast of characters in the front, which I am interested in. Now, my problem with this, I'm just supposed to be picking it based on first sentence, so maybe I've already failed, but there's 3 pages of characters, which I don't like because I don't like too many people. But the opening sentence is, the wisest souls say that pure mountain air makes us all go a little mad. It's fine. I'm gonna put it here. I don't hate it. It's kind of interesting, right? And it sets the tone. You know what you're getting. You're probably gonna get mountain air in that, but nothing crazy. This one, gosh, I've been like chasing this around my house forever. The Beautiful and the Wild. All I know is that it's set in Alaska. The silence was so thick, I felt like I was drowning. That is good. It's setting up intrigue really well. Okay, I'm going to put it up top. I kind of like that. Maybe I should stack them. The silence was so thick, I felt like drowning. I like. The Adults by Alison S. Pack. All I know is this is from the author of The Wedding People, and it's set in a college campus. It says, they arrived in bulk, in black tie preferred, in one large clump behind our wooden fence, peering over each other's shoulders and into our backyard like people at the zoo who wanted a better view of the animals. That's pretty good. That's too long for me. I'm very picky. I'm going to be very picky for this, and I need something short, concise, punchy, and that's a little convoluted. So that's going to go on my no. How to Sleep at Night, Elizabeth Harris. I do know a little bit about this book, actually, but it says, Ethan sat down next to his husband at their dining room table, took his hand, and then told him something terrible. That's a pretty good opening sentence. I'm curious. You sort of understand the characters, and it's not really that unusual, but I am curious. I want to know what the terrible thing is. So this one's a possibility. Maybe I need to extend how many I'm going to have up top or be pickier. I don't know. Where I End, Sophie White. All I know is this is a mother-daughter story and it's pretty bleak. My mother. I said I wanted short, but that's a little too short for me. I'm going to need a little more than that. Open Water. Ooh, this has got deckled edges. You're going to love that or hate it. And Open Water's first sentence reads, "The barbershop was strangely quiet." I like the setting. I know we're in a barbershop, but it's not doing much for me, so that's going to go down there. What's next? Back After This by Linda Holmes. This is a February release. And I know I've read her twice, Flying Solo and Evie Drake Starts Over. I like her writing. She is also a podcaster. And it says, back after this, the trick was not to be noisy. Not quite. I'm going to put it down here. This is Fundamentally. I think Sink Your Teeth into the Rave Reviews. Well, we're not doing that for this video because I'm just going to dive in and look at the first sentence of Fundamentally. Set in September 2019. It wasn't ideal navigating the Zagros Mountains on a freezing September night, wearing a trouser suit and ballet flats. I'm going to put that here. That's actually pretty good because you're curious, kind of figuring out like why she dressed like that. But I'm going to pass. Mama Station. I know nothing about this. Next to nothing. She stands in her father's shadow on the platform, watching as he squints into the low morning sun. Why is she stalking her father? I don't know, but nothing crazy. Caucasia, Danzy Senna. She's the author of Colored Television, which I really enjoyed. A long time ago, I disappeared. What? Okay. Mystery, intrigue, check. Bold and unusual, check. Strong voice, sense of character, not quite. I mean, it could be anybody, but I really like that. A long time ago, I disappeared. What do you mean? So this is definitely top shelf. That's a contender. We Do Not Part by Hong Kong. This says, a sparse snow was falling. We will pass on that for me. We Are Watching, Allison Galen. It's been the longest day of Meg Russo's life, and it isn't even half over. It's good. That's actually pretty decent, but I'm going to pass. Don't Be a Stranger. I'll move on at some point, I promise, guys. She stayed as long as she could in the bath. No. How about Dead Money? This is my aardvark pick for the month. Tony found the body on a Tuesday. I actually kind of like that. You know I like a dead body, right? I mean, that sounds crazy, but you know what I mean. All right, what else is here? Some of these are just TBR that I need to relocate downstairs. Okay, I'll do a couple more. Private Rights by Julia Armfield. She's the author of Our Wives in the Sea. This will all be swiftly forgotten. That's actually pretty good. Not bad. Not good. A Talent for Murder, Peter Swanson. And this one says, even though Josie Nixon had graduated from college and gotten married and knew how to hang curtains and open a retirement account, going to this conference still felt like the most grown-up thing she had ever done. I actually hate that, so I'm going to put that here. Where You Find Me by T.J. Vernon. He is the author of Bath House, which I loved. That one's so good. When You Find Me. I think this is his debut. I wasn't in the right headspace for home. Nope. That's all right. I don't hate it. It's just not going to be my choice. All right. Are we going to get weird with this one? Mostly Dead Things. I think it's about, what do you call that? A taxidermy shop. I like the text, the font on this and in the book. How we slice the skin. Carefully. That's a given. That's good. That's really good. That's a close, that might be a winner. Nothing Can Hurt You, Nicola May Goldberg. When I was 6 years old, my mother woke me at dawn and drove us to a motel in Morristown, New Jersey. Curious, but not going to read it for today. Look Closer by David Ellis. All right. Is that the first sentence? Okay. I check my green burner phone for the time. Okay. Keep it moving. Finally, Audition by Ryu Murakami. Why don't you find yourself a new wife, Pops? I kind of like that, actually. I quite like that. Oh, we've got more books back here. Hold on. Some of these I don't want to read too early. They're arcs. This is gratuitous at this point. I appreciate you hanging with me. And if you've already clicked away, so be it. All right, this one is The Antidote by Karen Russell. This one comes out in March. This is truly an arc. Like, this is like interesting paper. It is nowhere you chose to be, and yet here you are. It's not bad. But I'm not gonna pick it for today. The Good Samaritan, Tony Helene. This one also comes out in March. First of all, I didn't know there was a body on the porch. You know I like a body, right? Oh, I'm excited. I've got a good pile up there. Finally, this is my last one for real. Broken Country, Claire Leslie Hall. This one comes out on March 4th. The farmer is dead. He is dead, and all anyone wants to know is who killed him. That's pretty good. These are the options that stood out the most to me. So let's narrow it down. Let's choose 3. Even though I only need 2 books for this vlog, I'm going to choose 3 just in case. Give myself a DNF option, even though it kind of goes against the spirit. Whatever, let's do it. Okay, I'm going to pick at random. Caucasia says, a long time ago I disappeared. I like that. A long time ago I disappeared. Okay. How to Sleep at Night. Ethan sat down next to his husband at their dining room table, took his hand, and then told him something terrible. I think I'll still read this, but I'm not going to pick it for this. The Beautiful and the Wild. The silence was so thick I felt like I was drowning. That's a pass. Dead Money. Tony found the body on a Tuesday. We'll pass. Mostly Dead Things. How We Slice the Skin. Carefully. That's a given. That's in the final. Why don't you find yourself a new wife, Pops? I'll pass on that for now. Oh, how exciting. I think I've got it. The farmer is dead. He is dead. And all anyone wants to know is who killed him. Or, first of all, I didn't know there was a body on the porch. All right, these are the ones we're choosing. I'm nervous. Listen, I am nothing if not a library girl. I am back with what I think is a freaking epic haul. I only had 2 of these books on hold. The rest of them were just sitting there on the shelves. The first one that was just on the shelf is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. You know, this week we're doing opening first sentences that blew us away. Get a load of this. I'm so mad I didn't pick this one. On my 4th birthday, I plucked 6 severed fingers from the shower drain. I'm gonna have to squeeze this one in because, my God, can you think of a better opening? I mean, depends on what you like to read, but that sounds really good. Too Soon, I heard this is a debut. It's a literary fiction debut, and I got this one as a recommendation from a bookseller at See Which Books. And it's about a main character who is Palestinian American who gets an unexpected chance at love when she's thrust into a conflict in history she's tried to avoid all her life. This one I think sounds good. This one I had heard nothing about. I just liked it from the shelf, and sorry, it's obviously very reflective, but it says, And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott. This one is a mind-bending, razor-sharp look at motherhood and mental health. It follows a young Indigenous woman who discovers a picture-perfect life she has always hoped for might have horrifying consequences, and I'm very interested to know what those horrifying consequences might be. I love motherhood stories, and I just thought this one sounds really interesting. It's also set in Toronto, and I don't read a ton of books set in Canada. I grabbed The In Crowd. It's actually funny. I used to own a copy of this and I think I sold it, but I grabbed this because I saw that it was nominated for an Edgar Award for Best Novel, a whodunit of London's high society where being in or out can be a life or death matter. I feel like it could be fun, and obviously people liked it. It's not been nominated. This one is a me pick. The Factory by Hiroko Oyamada has been on my radar. I visited a bookstore last year and I saw it on the shelf and I just thought, come on, this cover is catching my eye. I started it recently as an ebook and my hold lapsed, so I had to anyway, whatever, it's a hold. This is a book in translation. It's set in Japan. It is weird, man. It is a book that it doesn't have a lot going on. It's got 3 characters that are intersecting with one another. They all work at the factory and not a lot is happening, yet it's also oddly really funny. I saw someone say that this was Seinfeld for office workers set in Japan, and I sort of see where they're going with that. So I am going to finish it. It's short. It's only 116 pages, but it's also very much stream of consciousness, sort of a lot of run-on sentences, but I liked it. Finally, this last one I'm really pumped about. It's A Gorgeous Excitement by Cynthia Weiner. It's about a girl that's coming of age in summer 1986 in Manhattan, and she's basically just trying to fit in. She is Jewish, so she's an outsider among the blue-eyed blondes who populate the rarefied world that she wants to be a part of. But then she meets this handsome and charismatic dude. Every girl wants to sleep with him, every guy wants to be him, and she basically pursues him. And she finally finds that she might get what she wants, but at what cost? I love the sound of this. Anyway, had to brag about those because what a haul. This is it, my last chance to decide what I'm going to do with my hair. It's very, very long, too long. And I really think I'm going to cut bangs, but I'm nervous. What if I look silly? Who cares? I mean, honestly, Kim, there are people dying, so there's obviously much bigger problems than this. Like, let's try something new. I think the women that have bangs look so fun, so stylish. I'm also going to add some more blonde up top, I think. Wish me luck. So I feel absolutely insane. I think I hate it, but I can't tell. The lighting is really good. So if I don't like it now, it's just so different for me. Do we like it? I am unclear. I just feel like it's so different. Maybe if I put it behind my ears, I just feel so different. All right, you'll have to forgive me because I did indeed change the book that I am picking for my opening first sentence because I needed one on audio and those other 2 I just had in print. So I changed to The Lamb by Lucy Rose. And what on earth is this book? I knew nothing about this book going in. I knew that it was horror. I thought it was feminist. I thought it was going to be weird. And I was pretty sure it was about cannibals. Indeed, that is correct. It is about cannibals. And her mom's really depressed because they don't have any new strays. And that's what they call the people that I guess they eat. Very odd. But, you know, it's a short book and I will report back at some point. I'm going to file this book under, you know what? Hell yeah. This book was really good. It is cannibalistic horror. So if that's not your thing, I don't recommend it. But this is a case of a first sentence really working out for me because you basically know what you're getting from the jump. This is about a young girl, Margot, who is living in a remote home with her mom. And they have lived in the forest for as long as Margot can remember. They're always pretty insular. They're pretty removed from everybody. And then a stray comes to their home and they make friends with it instead of eating it like they normally do. And this is a gothic coming-of-age novel about 2 women who sort of have this insatiable hunger. I also really liked what it had to say about motherhood. Don't get me wrong, this book will have you feeling like Mother of the Year. As you can hear, my kid is screaming in the background in the house. She's fine. She just likes to yell. But if you ever are thinking, wow, maybe I could be doing better, read this book because it's going to make you feel like you are just #1 mom. And I really enjoyed how creepy it was. I like that the author went there. And, you know, I think this obviously is horror, so it's very extreme. But to a lesser degree, I bet a lot of children are treated this way. They're ignored, their parents put them down. And, you know, there's not that many people in their lives that believe them. Overall, I really recommend this. I wonder if this is a debut. I feel like it might be. Oh, this is her first novel. So yes, this is her debut novel. I would definitely read this author again. It's feminist, and I loved the ending personally, but again, it's very macabre, so know that going in. But I'm going to give this one 4.25 stars. My first check-in for Mostly Dead Things by Kristen Arnett. It's going great. I am about 40% in, and I made the mistake that I sometimes do. I'm like, I'm enjoying this, but then it got to a certain point where I'm like, I bet the people aren't going to like that. And I took to Goodreads to see. I don't know why I did this as I'm in the middle of reading it, but indeed the people from Goodreads did not appreciate this. But it is set in a taxidermy shop and you get a lot of dead things in the book. I would say if you're not down with that, just know that going in. I'm having mixed feelings about obviously the taxidermy angle. I don't love it, but I don't want to disrespect something that I don't entirely understand. So I'm just sort of holding my judgment here. More so though, it's not about the taxidermy. It's about the main character, Jessalyn, who is a mess for good reason. You sort of come to understand why she is the way she is. And she was in love with her brother Milo's wife, Bryn, when they were younger. And she talks about how she had to let her go basically because Bryn was happy to fool around with her, but ultimately I think wanted to be in a relationship with her husband. She is somebody that never felt like she fit in, and now that her dad has passed away, she is struggling to figure out who she is as a person and just struggling in general, right? I don't think really cares who she is as a person. She's more so like, this is who I am. And now she doesn't know how to do life. She's resentful of her brother for a lot of reasons, and a lot of them are very valid, but they're having a bit of conflict. She's also not getting along with her mother, who has discovered this very intense hobby. And I think it says in the synopsis what that is. She starts making aggressively lewd art with the taxidermied animals, which I'm not loving. I actually hate that part of the book, but I also think that that is the purpose of it, to make you gasp. This book is very visceral. It's very raw, I guess. There's a lot of body talk, just in general. A lot of talk about a variety of bodily fluids, and still, though, I am enjoying it. I don't know how this is going to end. I also don't quite know where it's going, but I'm not mad about that. This one's very, very character drawn or character heavy, character driven. So if you don't like character driven stories, maybe don't pick this one up. I'm curious. I'm happy I'm reading it because I have always wanted to read this author. I personally also love the cover, and I bought this from Pango Books. And fun fact, I'm like, okay, dying once the jacket is off. But then I discovered this fun fact. I'm like, someone drew in my novel. Oh my God, it's the author's signature. Now, isn't that a fun tie-in? Somebody sold their signed copy, but I was happy to pick it up. Anyway, I will report back when I am finished. I do think the first sentence got us where we needed to go, and I think it gave me a good idea of what we are getting in this story, because it's funny. The first sentence was how we slice the skin carefully. That's a given. And that's sort of this book. It's macabre, but it's also quite funny, and I would love to see something happen. I want to see where this goes. Okay, 40% in, actually 45% in to Mostly Dead Things, and I am appalled and I don't want to keep reading. However, I am going to, because first of all, I'm almost halfway into it, and it's not a bad book. It's just not one that I prefer. I don't like taxidermy, and something has just happened that made my jaw drop, and really not in a good way. To the point where I'm like, am I reading what I'm reading? Is this legal? I don't think it is. But anyway, I'm going to keep going because I really am interested in Jessa. She is so broken, and she I want her to have some agency. Like, she's so down on herself and just making these self-destructive choices. It's irritating me. And I'm like, okay, I want to see you get your redemption story. I don't know that there's a redeeming character in this entire novel. In fact, I know so far that there is not. And yet here I am, continuing to read it. I don't know. I'll report back, I guess, when I'm finished. I'm back to share my thoughts on Mostly Dead Things, and it's complicated, I guess, because I did want to DNF this book several times because of the physicality of the writing. It's a lot of body talk, it's a lot of dead animal talk, but there was a piece about animal cruelty where I'm like, I don't know if I can get on board with this and still sort of come up with coherent thoughts on whether or not I recommend it. But what I think the book did really well is the writing itself. The writing is very solid. I think the author did a great job crafting these eclectic, weird, very authentic characters that are who they are. And you do, though, get to see them go on a journey throughout the book. I, at one point, texted my co-host Hannah and was like, I think I have to quit almost 50% in because I don't understand what's happening. I understood it, but I couldn't believe that she put it on the page. But in the end, I came around. I'm glad I stuck with it because if you stick with it, you get to see this wonderful connection between the main character and her mother. This is a story about how our parents are people too and how your relationship with them will change and you don't always know all that they are going through. And I am glad that certain characters didn't have too big of a role in this one because I found them to be irritating. But still, I would read this author again. I think it's a really solid debut. I know she has one coming out. I think it's actually later this year, maybe in March. So I would read her again. But overall, do I recommend this one? Not really. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Not the best, not the worst. Okay, hi, it's another day, and I wanted to check in with my early thoughts on Good Dirt by Charmaine Wilkerson. I have to confess something. We picked this for our February Book Talk, etc. community read. I knew I had liked the author's previous book, Black Cake, and I have to say that the premise wasn't doing anything for me. All I knew is that it was about a family heirloom, and we were going to trace the lineage of that, and I knew that it opened with a shooting. Boy, was I wrong. This book is so entertaining. And what I love about it is the pacing. I'm only 50 pages in and already there has been a shooting, a wedding has been canceled, and the main character has taken off to Paris. All of this is basically in the synopsis, so it's not a spoiler, but I'm very much enjoying the setup of this. I love how she's putting together these characters, and you really are just taken through this journey of the history. It starts with this jar, right? The jar is called Mo, and you find out that it was created in the 1600s in Africa and came over on a slave ship and has been in this family since then. And the person that got killed in the beginning is Abby's brother, Baz. And Baz was only 14 years old, I think. And so we know obviously in present day, she's about to get married. She's a full adult. But there's just so much going on here. There's so much to be curious about. And she's giving us 2018, 2 pages later. It's 8 months later, 2 pages after that. We are back with the jar and the history of the jar, and then we're at the airport. And yet I'm not confused. Like, this is how I know the difference between good writing and not so good writing. When it's good writing, I'm like, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? What's going on here? How am I supposed to understand the creativity and the craftsmanship that is going into it? And that's when I let go and realize I don't need to. The books where I'm not taking a lot of notes in the very beginning, I think oftentimes are the good books because I'm not worried about which character is who came from where. I'm just enjoying the good story. And I can tell this is going to be a great one. Audiobook is narrated by January Lavoie, so I will be doing some of this on audio as well as the e-version. I've got it in 3 formats, which is my very favorite, but I will check in maybe at midway, maybe when I'm finished, but so far I'm very much enjoying it. I also am dumb, and I really thought this was just a cover with colors on it for a while. I didn't look too closely, but now looking closer, that's Basil, and this is the jar, and it's just lovely. So thanks so much to Valentine Books for sending me this ARC. All right, we are wrapping up Good Dirt, and I am so glad that we picked this for our community read for Book Talk, etc. This book it takes on so much, but it's also very accessible, right? I am going to have trouble describing this one, and I hate when that happens because I loved this book. I think I'm giving it 5 stars, and it took on so much, and yet when I tell you I finished this book, I think in 24 hours, I did the audio and I thought it flowed so well. If you read the print, I'm looking and you can see, well, obviously, even if you do the audio, it is short chapters. It opens with the prologue, and then you've got Shattered, At Least This, Small Favors, Ebby, all of those things were chapters, right? So the pacing is pretty good. And what I love about this book is you're really getting and tracing this family's history in a way that's not linear, but it's also not confusing. I didn't find it to be super dry. I also like that this is set in France. I did not know that. I thought it was going to be set in New England, but Abby takes off for France, and the bulk of the book takes place over there, which I think is so interesting. It was fun to read about. There are definitely sections in here that are going to make you want to chat about it with somebody. So I do think this is going to be a great buddy read. Thing that happened to her, it's her overcoming her trauma of losing her brother at such a young age. And then in the beginning of the book, we know she also loses her husband or her fiance. The wedding does not take off. And I loved the side characters in this. You know, I think it does a good job sharing information about family, about obligation and marriage, long-term marriage, and just about culture as well. They were one of the only Black families in the neighborhood they lived in. And the dad at least carried a lot of guilt by moving his family to be the only Black family in a predominantly white area, because he begins to wonder, what if I didn't move them here? Would our son still be alive? I thought this was heartfelt and pretty fast-paced, given that it is historical fiction, even though part of it is in the present day. It's sort of this hybrid model. I highly recommend this book. I will definitely continue to read Charmaine Wilkerson. This is the second book I've read of hers, and I enjoyed this even more than Black Cake, which is saying a lot because I loved that one too, but that's good dirt. All right, that's it for today. Overall, I think this was an excellent experiment. I was led to two great books. The Lamb was a wild success, and Mostly Dead Things. I found a new author that I like, and I definitely will try something different from her. Of course, Good Dirt was fantastic, and I recommend that one pretty widely. I think the First Sentence Experiment was a really good one. I think for both of them, you really got the vibe of the book. I think they did a great job setting it up. They were pretty consistent, so I think next time I am in decision fatigue and I don't know what to read next, that might be my plan. I'll just grab a bunch of books and start, the first sentence and see if it leads me to anything good or unexpected. But thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Bye.